I'd just like to thank SGA for inviting me to speak today, and probably more importantly, putting a really good group of speakers together. It certainly, it's brought a lot of people, and that's fantastic to see. I've really enjoyed the speakers. Points I'd need a translator, but it's been a really good day so far. Probably the one that's really hit me most and resonated the most was $150 a week. It sort of reminds me of school camp, when once we went on a 6-day camp and they gave you your food on the first day, and about day 2 I'd eaten it all. And I think, I'd probably be in that situation with $150. My background, when I left uni, I went and worked in a boning room. It was Superior Farms, which is an American-owned company, and Superior Farms had a very simple view. To get up in management, you actually had to master every cut in the boning room. So the day after I got my degree, I walked into a boning room, and until I mastered the forequarter table, I wasn't allowed to move up. And that was really, I suppose, that's probably driven a lot of my progress since, has been looking at end market and looking at how we can position ourselves as a business. I also was involved in Viascan. Viascan, when it started, was a group of scientists sitting in Beenleigh in Brisbane. They were dead set rocket science. We had to have a translator between me talking to them, but I managed to progress Viascan as a project manager from a prototype to I was commercialised. I was the first marketing manager for Australia and New Zealand. The interesting thing about Viascan, we did get 3 systems into Australia, and then all of a sudden we went to New Zealand and it took off. Probably the interesting thing is where it's taken us. We, as breeders, we probably get upset the fact that it hasn't taken over here, but I gave a presentation in New Zealand last Friday, and really all I see from the New Zealand sheep is taking all the fat off them. And I think there's probably a lot of hindsight now. I spoke to one of the largest lamb breeders in New Zealand. He said, "I don't like eating our lamb anymore." And that was a really interesting comment. So the way the industry is going, segmentation and looking at the beef industry, our progress as an industry, we've got to watch. Taking the wrong tram might bring us undone. So really, we're a terminal and maternal breeding program. We estimate we've got about 750,000 lambs by our rams in the industry. We've got 4 breeding programs. We've got our maternal, which is 55% of our ewes, our tradie, which is our South Down Dorset, which is 31% of our ewes, and our Dorset, and we've got a few little toys on the side which we're playing with for specialist markets. Based on main markets for clients, that's the main breakup of where our lambs go. 36% to Coles, 11% to breakout meats, 9% JBS, 8% TFI. Very hard data to get, but it's an estimation. Some clients change their market every year, others are dedicated suppliers. I'd estimate even of that 36%, most of our clients are domestics. There's a lot of other domestic plants obviously around, and that's probably really tailored our business of where we focus our sheep and our efforts. Basically that's a bit of an overview of where the different breeding programs go. We have got 3 strains of terminals. Probably Dorsets, we've probably got a foot in the camp of the meat yield moving forward. A little bit more emphasis on meat yield in the Dorsets, as well as marbling as well. But that's probably the only difference between them. The rest are pretty much, as it says there. I think the biggest issue with the industry is market needs. In 1997, I sat at Dallas Brooks Memorial Hall and had Rob Walker, head of Woolworths, tell me I needed 40 kilo lambs in 10 years' time. And that was huge. That was groundbreaking, 40 kilo lambs. I went back to him 12 months later and I said, "Rob, I've done it. I've got a 40 kilo 2-score lamb." He goes, "No, we changed our mind." So as breeders, it's quite hard. Markets change. Premium markets change all the time. 95, 2000, Castricum's 24 kilo plus high yielding lamb was the highest paid lamb in the industry. The big change in the currency was different. The exporters were king. And certainly that had a lot of power in the market, and really that was a premium market. That was where most of our clients were focused at. 24 kilos, 50-something% lean meat yield was our market. And we really tried to create a business doing that well. As times go by, markets changed. Domestics became king, and we certainly saw a transition towards a lot more domestic markets. Probably the thing we didn't change straight away was our type of sheep. I'd probably say the biggest issue we didn't do well, we decided we'd have two types of sheep. We'd have an export style of sheep, we'd have domestic style of sheep. The biggest problem we found sometimes, some clients would buy export types of sheep, and then all of a sudden, no, gee, Cole's got good money, I'm going to send them there. That was a real issue for us, because all of a sudden you get caught. All of a sudden, and that we started to see, I thought that affected our business. We weren't specialised. We were trying to be all things to all people. And really, I suppose that's where the real discrepancy comes, high indexing rams. I go to a breakout meats and they're a major buyer of our lambs, and you look at the way they grade lambs for their market. It's based on consistency, fat cover and conformation. And they got a rough idea when they grade lambs on the rail, which market and how many percentage goes into what market. The top market being the Victor Churchills and whatnot get the most money. So the clients who supply the right type of lambs actually do get a premium. The problem is a lot of our high indexing rams in the industry are too big and too lean. So you can see the frustration. I think the culture change we tried to have is sit down and go, well, what do you want? We're a ram seller. And really, I suppose the biggest change in is that domestic focus. So I think it's become more specialised. Without offending Mark, I think the beauty about what I saw that it's actually all merging. 23 kilos is the optimum weight for an exporter as well. So my gut feel is it's pretty much going to be the same ram for both markets long term. I do think we'll see this, these sort of elephant 32 kilos probably come under the microscope a bit more. So we probably do see a merger of the markets. So really, it's interesting enough, our two main domestic markets, and we do deal with a number of markets in a number of states, they're pretty much chasing the same sort of lamb. Whether that's a whole carcass market, for example, they sell whole carcasses into retail, or the retailers, we do see they're chasing the right type of lamb, and that's probably good for us. It makes it a bit easier when our main markets are chasing the right type of lamb, so the same type of lamb. How do we become, I suppose, better at meeting customer needs? We started doing that a number of years ago, and we're very lucky. Gundagai, which is a Coles plant, allowed us a few years ago to put through a number of sire lines and actually do retail yields. The thing that interests us most is retail yields. That's basically a sum of the cut breakups. And that's more exciting for us than lean meat yield. Back in the days of Castricums and Viascan and back Tatiara Meat Company, lean meat yield wasn't rocket science. Take all the fat off them. You cross an East Friesian and a Texel, you'd win every Castricums carcass comp there was. So, but retail yield's different. Percentage of rack is king. If we can shift the percentage of rack by 0.5% on a 23 kilo carcass, it actually can add $8 to $10 in a retail spec. So that's quite significant. There's no rocket science. At a common fat, really it's just high muscle. And that's all we learn. We do some of this research. Some of the stuff is pretty simple. Up muscle, you increase the percent of rack and loin. That on the amount of lambs we do, our clients do produce, it can actually add a lot of value. I think the thing that really interests us, probably the biggest change Sheep CRC was obviously a catalyst for actually getting information on traits we've never got before. But I think lamb follows beef. We've seen a segmentation of the beef market. If you applied a lot of the indexes in beef now, really it wouldn't tell much of a story. I mean, I would have thought Wagyu is the highest yielding animal in the country, nor is Angus. And you even see some of the high yielding breeds, Belgian Blue and Limousin, wiped off the face of the earth. Where it's interesting, I look at the New Zealand flock, they've jammed European through nearly every animal they can. So my thoughts were, do we go down this yield path? And really, I suppose it's a bit like the loin, the retail yields. We actually wanted to understand what's happening in our flock. So we started a project. We actually got 8 of our sires. We had a few different breeds, and we actually artificially inseminated some ewes. Those lambs went to TFI at Tamworth due to the accessibility of Armidale Uni, took the loins out, and we tested it. We took one loin out, tested chemically, IMF, shear force, pH. The other one was eaten by consumers. And really how they do it, it's a bit like an election booth. They all go in there and, it's all, I've actually got a video I should have probably shown, it goes for a couple of minutes, but really they go in there, it's all done to the same degree of doneness, and then they rate it. The interesting thing was the difference. The top sire, if you look at willingness to pay, Richard Apps had a really good graph. It basically said, based on MSA loin rating, what consumers would pay. There was a big difference. Dave Pethick told me if we see a sire eat 5 points better than the next one, that would be a significant result. The top sire ate 11 points higher than the second sire. So basically consumers, and even the bloke taking the video doesn't know much, but he sat there, he goes, there was one sire came through, everyone started smiling. Now, some research makes sense. He wasn't the highest marbling, or he wasn't the most tender animal. Now that really posed some questions to me, because all of a sudden we just had this, certainly there's some straight line correlations between marbling and shear force, but his scores for juiciness and flavourness were basically 90, 100 the whole way. So how do we breed juiciness and flavour? Really interesting issue. So I suppose that really whet our appetite. This year we've put 28 sires in the same process. Basically every sire we're using this year, by October, we'll actually have eating quality data on. And yeah, it's quite exciting for us. Probably the biggest thing for us is turnaround. The sheep CRC is too slow. All of a sudden it's taking 2 seasons for get our data back. We put rams in the information nucleus, we're missing 2 breeding seasons to get it back. We're joining them in January, we're killing them in October. By the time we do a TGRM, first week of November, we actually got a 12-month turnaround of data. And that's really important for us to make progress. So, yeah. Where does this all stand? We want Lambpro to be a brand, not a brand to a consumer, a brand to a buyer. Breeds are a terrible mechanism to describe lambs. I know some of the breed societies are looking at brands. I don't know how they're going to do it, given the differences in philosophy and breeding programs within a breed. I think it's an absolute waste of time. I think brands is the way to go. Groups of like-minded people producing the same article. The key markets we're involved with know about our research. They know about our breeding programs. We also are looking at, and we've already got opportunities presenting for niche, for top end. We're playing around with one breeding program. We've only got 100% emphasis on eating quality, nothing else. And we have actually got a fair bit of interest in that market. So, the future. After working in feedback for a number of years, I actually don't believe in feedback the way I used to. We've got 100% control over most of our clients' maternal and terminal genetics. So if all of a sudden we can basically become more sophisticated in our design of our sheep, really feedback for us, we should be able to get more and more in spec for not only retail yields, but also eating quality. I think the market's commercial. The $1 million question, you don't get paid for it. We're starting to see some market signals coming through, particularly when lambs are oversupplied. It's amazing how none of our clients were complaining about not getting hook space. I had an agent at Narracourt rang me last year and he said I had 60,000 lambs to sell within 3 weeks, and a buyer rang me about 1 line of lambs. So we are seeing some positive demand in the marketplace. The ability to get kill space, let's say that November time can be worth $8 a lamb. So yeah, we are seeing that. Objective technology, certainly on the horizon. To Mark and everyone else involved, your ability to be able to roll that out is key. I'd hate to see lean meat yield go alone, because we might as all just go -2.5 for fat and would get it. So really that's all lean meat yield would give us, is basically let's go to -2.5 for fat, ruin all our eating quality and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully we do see primal yield. Hopefully we do see eating quality in some sort of technology. But I think it's exciting times for the industry. Anyway, thank you.